Hi, everybody. I'm introducing you now to the UK Sommelier of the Year, which is Matteo Furlan, who is the head sommelier at the Ritz. Good afternoon, Matteo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, David.
I just want to ask you a few questions just that our listeners can see what makes you tick. First of all, when and where were you born?
So, on the 27th of January 1991 in a small town in northeast of Italy, which is called Concordia Sagittaria, and this is about an hour driving north of Venice. So I am in the middle of the land of the famous Prosecco, which is getting quite popular here in the UK nowadays.
Well, that's why you've won the Villa Sandy competition. Tell me, what was your first encounter with wine?
Well, this is a beautiful story because my grandfather owns a restaurant and a hotel in the area. So I used to run here and there in kitchen in the restaurant at the time. And he always used to give me a little bit of wine to put me on bed. So I have to say I was quite little. I was a child at the time. So and I've started to take this on board and yeah.
Okay. When and why did you decide to become a sommelier?
This happened after I take a touristic school, a catering school in Italy in the north, in Jesolo. I started to work in restaurants and hotels, and I get to try a lot of wines. I was a waiter at the time, and I met one of the head sommelier, Marco was his name, and he always fascinated me, his job, what he was doing, what the feeling was about wine, the history behind the label, and the pleasure of having something special, some rare vintages. So I decided to switch, to start working with him, and he was at the time in a little place outside Venice, and he started teaching me, training me. From that time, it was just like I felt in love. I was buying book, buying new wines, opening new bottles, getting into wine morning, afternoon, and night. So it was.
Was there anyone in particular, apart from this first encounter, that you learned your craft from?
What do you mean, colleagues and people in the industry?
Yeah.
I want to say that I met a lot of producers and a lot of people in the area because I was, it's area famous for its wines, a lot of wine and winery to visit to get, familiar with. But I would say that the person that made the switch at the moment was Marco. Yeah, so I would refer to him.
Yeah, and that presumably was all about Italian wines. I mean, where did you start to learn about wines which have been described sometimes by the Italians and the French as foreign wines?
Yeah, that happens a few years later when he recommended me to move on and try something different, and it was when I moved to Spain. So in Spain, I started learning about foreigner wines as you define them, because in Italy we have a big tradition of our own wine, especially in the north. You have a lot of Amarones, you have a lot of Barolos, so all the bubbly stuff from Lombardy and Trento Doc. We actually happens to sell some of, especially French wine, some Champagne, some big Bordeaux. But it's not that common, even though we are a big hotel in Venice that you sell French, Spanish, or New World wines. So I had to move, in Spain to try new things, new wines, to get familiar with different style, to open a bit of my mind related to wine. And then, of course, when I moved here in the UK, it's 5 years ago.
I was going to ask, how long have you been in the UK?
Yeah.
And is the Ritz your first job in the UK?
No, I've actually joined other companies. When I came here, I actually been helped to find a job for Capri's Holding at the time. So I started in the J. Shiki, which is, as you possibly know, one of the oldest restaurants in London.
Yeah.
And then I moved a few years after in Hakkasan, I joined Akasan Group to try a little bit of Asian cuisine, to play with flavors, and experience the sake world
Well, you've
as
got
well.
Christine Parkinson, who really
Well, one of
runs
the
a good
yes
a good wine
program, I would say.
program.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
And I'm now at Ritz from a little bit more than 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, and you've just been appointed the head sommelier.
Yeah, it was lovely news that I got almost 4 months ago, and yeah, started as a deputy at sommelier, assisting Giovanni Ferlito, which is our wine director, which has decided to help me to reach my goal, and I, been very proud to have reached that target, and I'm now the head sommelier. Yeah.
So, do you have any input into the wine list at the Ritz?
Yes, I think is what we do here. We have a lovely team. It's 7 of us at the moment, but we work alongside Giovanni, which is the wine director. But all the team has his input. So what we do, we regularly taste wine all together. We try to go and travel as much as we can to see the winery directly with our eyes and understand what's the philosophy of the producer behind the label. So if any of the sommelier has found and discovered a new wine or something that he likes, that he thinks suit our list, he brings it to our attention, and all together we decide. It's actually a very good democracy that we have in choosing wine, which doesn't really happen many times in big places. So we're actually very proud of this. Everybody puts his own effort, because at the end of the day, it's the sommelier team that needs to sell the wine. So
Sure. So, how would you describe the philosophy, your philosophy, about wine, in particular in your present job? What sort of wines are you looking for? What's your
This is actually quite a tricky question. We do have a big wine list. We over more than 1,000 bins at the moment. Of course, we are an establishment with a focus on classic wine from classic regions, so a lot of Burgundies, a lot of Bordeaux, a good amount of Champagne. But we're actually expanding. We're getting a lot more wines from the New World, from unearthed region, undiscovered region, where we try to promote, and we think the quality is good, and there is, let's say, a focus on a history, on something that makes that wine special. So we try to get out of the commercial names and go on more, let's say, artisanal product, artisanal wines. They have something to share with the...
But you also need the commercial names as well.
Yeah, you also, yes, you need some of the big names, because the guest at the end of the day perhaps likes that style,
Sure.
that name, so of course you have it.
So, what is the approach then to compiling a wine list? Yeah, I know you have a committee or a joint working out of the wine list. I mean, do you each cut it up into sections, or you just say, look, I like this or I like that?
Within the team, everybody has his own preference and what he likes the most. So everybody is focused on particular style and region, I would say. So we bring this to attention. It makes it much more easier, because yes, you focus on everything, all the world, but perhaps having a more deeper knowledge into some sector of the industry, it helps you to be more specialized, and you can get more information and more wines out of it.
What would you consider the most important countries for you around the world to source wines from?
Well, would you say about the most popular one, or would you say the new one, the upcoming region at the moment?
Well, I mean, presumably you're trying to get a balance of both in some way.
So, well, I see at the moment, of course, especially for us, as I said, that we are quite classic in style. We need to have a focus on Burgundies, Bordeaux, big Italian region like Barolos and Amarones. But I see a lot of interest about, I wouldn't say new region, but like United States, Napa, California. Australia is doing great. I think Australia is good potential. A lot more focus in Hungary, Austria, Germany as well, Spain, a lot of Spain.
Yeah, Spain's doing well. What would you consider to be the perfect wine list?
That's actually quite a tricky question. I don't think you have a perfect wine list. You need to see where you are, what you're doing, and trying to adapt and be. I would say you need to have a lot of things available. many different style, many different options, many different price point. Because at the end of the day, you need to make your customer, you find a customer happy. So you need to have everything available. I wouldn't say because perfect. It's too big. It's too big question. So
Yeah, and presumably you've got to apply different wine lists to different kinds of restaurants as well.
Yes, I think there's not a fixed recipe. Let's say so. You need to be like a chef. So you can put a little bit more salt or remove it in depending your final dish, which is a wine list.
What's your opinion on restaurant markups on wine lists?
What I say about restaurant markups is, you have to provide a certain type of standard of service. You need to think about what's behind the markup, which is all the costs that you need to support the glassware, cleaning the glassware, train your sommelier, support them in their study. So I won't see the markup as making only profit, but I see the markup as something for the business to be sustainable. So,
And that would probably include the kitchen as well as the as well as the restaurant, because in a lot of the top class restaurants, the kitchen is very labour intensive, and opening a bottle of wine is just pulling a cork, or even now just unscrewing the top. But
I
but
wouldn't
that
see as
markup does actually sustain the fact that the kitchen might have 100 people working in it.
it could potentially do, but what I see is that when you're receiving a bottle of wine, there is a person in the cellar that takes that delivery, that places it in the store, is available when we need the bottle to bring it up to the store. We need to store the bottle, refrigerate it, protect it from light. So it's a teamwork. Every piece of the puzzle helps to have the final goal, which is presenting the bottle and pulling out the cork. What I see as a bigger picture that requires a lot of amount of work.
Okay. How do you see the future trends in restaurant wine lists?
Well, there's a lot of vibe about low ABV wine, de-alcoholized wine. I see we introduced this actually almost a years ago. Wine, de-alcoholized wine, and wine without alcohol at all, to offer a more variegated, offering to our guests. See, there is a lot of focus on health as well. So guests asking for vegan wines or wine that are bio, so they, sustainable wines. I would put it that way. And I think we need to think about that a little bit more.
Well, maybe vegan and bio, probably not so much a health situation, but
I think it's
a
correlated as well.
sustainability situation, a way of
It's a
life
big topic.
situation. There's a lovely film out called Wine Calling. It's a French film about a group of vignerons in the Languedoc or in Roussillon who are really doing this natural wine stuff. Do you have de-alcoholized wines or natural wines on the wrist wine list?
We do have natural wine. We do list some orange wine, as they like to call it, so Georgian wines or wine from, let's say, the Colli region, where the tradition like Biasco Radico. We like that kind of style. I think there are people are much more interested in trying different things. And as I said as well, low ABV. It's if you're driving and you want to have a glass of wine.
How low do you call low ABV?
Well, you have different levels of wines. So let's say the alcoholized wine, you go 0.05% of alcohol, so you actually kind of none. Below it's about 8, 7, 8,
Yeah.
9.
Well, I'm experimenting myself with de-alcoholized wines. I bought a whole range from Tesco, and I'm testing them for an article I'm doing. So we'll see how that works out. I'm in the middle of it at the moment. Just coming back to you, not me, what are your views on the relationship between sommeliers and waiting staff in a restaurant?
What do you mean regarding to training and working in general?
Yeah, working together, or do you have a sort of demarcation that the sommelier never does any waiting, or the waiters never
No,
pour a
absolutely.
bottle of wine to anybody? Or
Well, the way that we work is to try to achieve the best possible customer experience. So we try to cooperate as much as we can. We do regular provided training to the waiting staff in order to give them as much more information regarding the wine and the style of wine. But working with such a huge wine list, you need to have somebody that is focused on the wine a bit more, because you don't want perhaps that we have almost 50 people working in the restaurant. It's a lot of us. So if you finish a bottle of wine, you don't want to go back to your customer and tell, look, I don't have it, because that person doesn't know. So you try to have different roles and responsibilities. Even though if somebody needs help, you're always able to offer help and support your colleague. So everybody has different focus, let's put it that way. But we try to collaborate as much as we can. I think you need to, when you're working long hours together, and
Sure.
you should see your colleague more than your family.
So I know you've just been appointed head sommelier of the Ritz, but in what direction do you see yourself going in the future? You want to open your own restaurant?
Well, I have already one, so it's there. We might collaborate and help with the family. For sure, what's my target at the moment is to stay here, to grow and improve my knowledge and learn as much as I can. And of course, why not? If I can have my own place, why not? Let's see.
Okay, Matteo, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to talking to you, and I wish you all the best in the future for all the other exams that you're taking as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.